Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Absolutely. Always up for a good deep dive.
Okay, awesome. So today we're continuing our exploration of the knowledge book. You sent in Fascicle 4, which takes us a bit deeper into the whole, origin story of the book itself. And it also throws out some pretty interesting concepts about the universe and our place in it.
Yeah, it definitely gets pretty cosmic in this section.
Yeah, for sure. One of the things that really grabbed my attention right off the bat was how Fascicle 4 frames the knowledge book as like this divinely inspired text specifically for like the 21st century.
Right. It's like they're positioning it as the next big spiritual guidebook.
Totally. And it even goes so far as to put itself up there with, like major religious texts like, the Bible and the Koran, even referring to itself as the quote unquote book of the 21st century. What do you make of that?
Well, it's bold for sure.
Oh, totally.
But what's interesting is it doesn't necessarily like dismiss those older texts. It's more like it's suggesting that the knowledge book is like building upon them, providing, I don't know, maybe like a fresh perspective for our current times.
Right, an update of sorts.
Yeah, exactly.
So it makes you wonder, right, like, is it meant to be like, I don't know, like an update, a companion piece, or maybe something totally different altogether? What do you think it's trying to achieve by positioning itself that way?
That's a great question. And honestly, it's not something that's explicitly stated in the text, so there's definitely a lot of room for interpretation.
Yeah.
But one thing that stands out to me is this emphasis on shared spiritual lineage, this idea of a global community united by these shared principles. And it's really highlighted by this introduction of the World Brotherhood Union.
Yeah, the World Brotherhood Union. It's like they're envisioning a future where like everyone is on the same page, spiritually speaking at least.
Exactly. It's this idea of global unity, this interconnectedness that we see pop up in various forms throughout history and across different cultures. Think about, for instance, like the concept of Ubuntu in African philosophy, or the interconnectedness emphasized in Buddhism.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Even some interpretations of Christianity touch on this idea of a universal church. The knowledge book definitely puts its own spin on it, but the underlying theme is very familiar.
So even though the knowledge book uses, its own specific kind of language, it's tapping into this like universal human longing for connection, for unity.
Absolutely. But then this is where things start to take like a really interesting turn.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Because the knowledge book doesn't just like say that we're striving for this unity. It claims that we're being actively guided toward it by extraterrestrial beings. And they even describe like a whole complex system of communication and supervision involving these beings.
It's like they're saying we're not alone in this. Okay. And not just in, like a poetic sense, but like literally.
Right. It's like they're painting a picture of this like cosmic management structure, and they're suggesting that these extraterrestrial beings are like deeply invested in human evolution.
Yeah.
Like they're monitoring our progress and even intervening when necessary.
Okay, so it's like we have cosmic babysitters.
Haha. In a way, yeah.
Keeping an eye on us.
It's definitely a concept that challenges our usual ideas about free will and destiny. Like, if everything we do is being recorded and analyzed by, these cosmic beings, does that mean our choices are predetermined? Or do we still actually have the freedom to make our own decisions?
Big questions, right?
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. But they do offer some reassurance. They emphasize that this monitoring isn't about, limiting our freedom, but rather it's about ensuring that everything is running smoothly within this cosmic system.
Okay, so it's like cosmic quality control.
Yeah, something like that.
Making sure we don't like break the universe or something.
Exactly.
Okay, I can get behind that.
But, what really struck me was their claim that this system has been operating since, get this, the beginning of the 20th century.
Yeah.
And that it's actually been the driving force behind humanity's spiritual development throughout history.
Wow. So they're basically saying that even like the development of religions has been influenced by these extraterrestrial beings for the quote-unquote benefit of society. I mean, talk about a bold claim.
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely a lot to unpack.
Yeah. I mean, it really makes you think about how this whole concept of extraterrestrial influence fits into our traditional understanding of divine inspiration, you know?
It definitely challenges us to rethink our assumptions about where spiritual teachings and guidance come from. But maybe we can shift gears a bit and look at how this fascicle describes the universe itself, because they paint a very different picture than what you might learn in a science
I
class.
noticed that too.
It's mind-blowing. They're talking about a multidimensional universe that extends far beyond what humans can typically perceive.
And they get pretty specific about certain celestial bodies, too. Like, they mentioned Mercury being a, quote, dead planet that's now a base for these beings.
And Pluto being a food storehouse covered in methane glaciers.
Methane glaciers. I mean, that's just not what I pictured when I think of Pluto, you know.
Yeah.
It definitely doesn't line up with our conventional scientific understanding of those planets. So what are we supposed to make of that?
Well, it's possible that these descriptions are more allegorical, like they're symbolic representations of cosmic principles or functions rather than literal descriptions.
Okay, so more like, you know, poetry than a science textbook.
Exactly. We could even draw connections to other spiritual and esoteric traditions that view celestial bodies as repositories of specific energies or forces.
So instead of picturing Pluto as this giant cosmic refrigerator, we should be thinking about what it represents metaphorically within this whole cosmic system that they're describing.
That's a great way to put it. The knowledge book might be encouraging us to look beyond the purely physical realm and consider the deeper energetic dimensions of the cosmos.
Okay, and this concept of energy is like crucial to their understanding of spiritual evolution, which, as you mentioned earlier, they say is all about raising your frequency and your vibration.
Right. It's all about energy.
It almost reminds me of like that whole idea of good vibes and bad vibes. Is that what they're getting at here? But on like a cosmic level.
I think so. They're suggesting that your thoughts and your emotions actually vibrate at different frequencies, and that those frequencies impact your spiritual growth. Have you ever noticed how like being around positive people can like lift your spirits, while negativity can kind of drag you down?
Oh, for sure.
That's the kind of like energetic exchange this fascicle is talking about, but on a much grander scale.
Okay, so it's not just like a personal thing. It's like our thoughts and emotions are actually like vibrating out into the universe and impacting our journey, you know,
Oh yeah.
on a spiritual level.
Exactly. It's pretty mind-blowing, right?
Totally mind-blowing. And then they go on to say that we're already experiencing higher dimensions, even if we're not like consciously aware of it.
Right. They even mention that some people get taken, quote, in UFOs to experience these higher dimensions and receive healing.
It's really blurring the line between like science fiction and spiritual experience.
Yeah. It really makes you wonder what's actually happening during those hours when we're like, let's leave, you know?
It's like the ultimate mystery.
Yeah, for sure. But they do make it very clear that not everyone is eligible for this kind of like advanced healing. They say it's only for those who deserve it.
That's interesting. So it raises the question, you know, what are the criteria for deserving this kind of intervention? What qualities or actions determine who's deemed worthy of this advanced healing and spiritual guidance?
Mm-hmm.
Because they also have this line, it really stood out to me. They say, in whichever way you believe in something, in whichever way you look at it, in whichever way you think of it, that thing will serve you in the very same way.
That sounds a lot like the law of attraction, doesn't it? Where the power of belief is seen as this like key factor in shaping one's reality.
Yeah, totally. But do you think they're saying the exact same thing? Or is there a subtle difference there? What do you think?
It's hard to say for sure, but I do think the knowledge book might be taking it a step further. They seem to be suggesting that this principle operates on like a cosmic level.
Yeah, like our beliefs aren't just shaping our personal reality, but they're also influencing the way that the universe interacts with us.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's not just about positive beliefs either. They're really adamant about the importance of overcoming these negative emotions like fury, vindictiveness, greed, jealousy, and cursing.
All the bad stuff.
Right, all those things that we know aren't good for us, but they claim they actually hold us back spiritually.
Okay, so it's not just about being like a good person in a moral sense. It's about understanding the energetic consequences of our emotions, you know.
Exactly. And it's interesting because they actually suggest that these negative emotions create a kind of energetic blockage that prevents us from from accessing those higher frequencies and aligning with the flow of cosmic energy.
So it's almost like holding on to negativity is like self-sabotaging in a way.
Right. But the question is, how do we actually overcome those negative emotions? Do they offer any practical advice on that? Because I know I could use some
Oh,
tips.
me too. Yeah, that's a great question.
Because I think that's something we all struggle with.
Yeah, I think we'll dive into that in the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good to me. It's a lot to think about, for sure. But speaking of challenging ideas, let's talk about this idea of spiritual guidance that they keep bringing up, because they're very clear that we're not alone on this journey. And they talk about these beings, these solar friends who are here to help us along the way.
Okay, so we have like cosmic buddies guiding us. I'm definitely intrigued. Tell me more about these solar friends. Like, where do they even come from?
Well, they claim to be from other solar systems, and they've even set up bases within our own solar system.
Wait, really? Like in our solar system?
Yeah, they specifically mention Mercury as like a focal point where their main system is located. They describe it as a dead planet because most of their bases are there.
So Mercury is like their headquarters.
It seems like it. And get this, they describe Pluto as a storehouse for food covered in methane glaciers.
Methane glaciers. Okay, that's wild. I mean, I know Pluto's kind of an oddball out there, but a methane-covered food store.
Yeah, it's definitely not your typical grocery store.
Uh-huh. No, for sure not.
But maybe we shouldn't take these descriptions too literally. Remember how we were talking about the allegorical nature of the knowledge book earlier? Maybe these planetary descriptions are symbolic too.
Right, right. So, like, if we think about it metaphorically, Mercury, which is often associated with, like, communication and intellect, could represent like the center of knowledge or wisdom in their system.
And Pluto, which is associated with transformation and the underworld, could symbolize like a source of sustenance and nourishment on this spiritual journey.
I like that. It's like Pluto holds the deep transformative energy that feeds our souls.
Exactly. It's definitely a lot to chew on. But how do these solar friends actually communicate with us? I mean, do they send us emails or something?
I was wondering the same thing.
Not quite. They describe communicating with humanity for centuries from a base on, get this, the moon.
The moon, really?
Sending messages about evolution during each full moon.
Okay, so they're using the moon as like a cosmic broadcasting station.
Something like that. It's interesting because the moon has always been associated with intuition, psychic abilities, and spiritual awakening in many traditions.
Right, yeah, totally.
So it makes sense that they would choose the moon as this kind of cosmic amplifier. But they also talk about using more advanced technology to interact with us.
Oh, so they're not just like whispering through the moonbeams. They've got tech too.
Yeah, they mention these special ships that travel between the moon and Earth, adjusting our, quote, brain codes to help us, attune to different frequencies.
Okay, so they're like cosmic tech support, giving our brains a software update.
Something like that. I think it speaks to their understanding of the universe as this multi-layered reality, where physical and non-physical realms kind of interact.
Right.
They even describe communicating through radio, phone, and television waves.
Wait, hold on. They're using like our tech to talk to us?
Apparently. But then you have to wonder, right, if they have such advanced technology, like why even bother with our primitive stuff?
Yeah, good point. I mean, I can barely get a signal on my phone sometimes.
Right. But they actually acknowledge that these are, quote, primitive instruments for them. But they say it's one way to reach us, where we're at, technologically speaking.
Okay, so it's like they're meeting us halfway.
Yeah, something like that. But ultimately, they emphasize the power of the human brain as the most advanced tool for communication. They say that our, quote, brain vibrations allow for the most direct connection, without any intermediaries.
So we're basically walking around with like cosmic Wi-Fi in our heads.
Uh-huh. Yeah. But if everyone has this ability, why don't we all hear these messages?
Right, yeah. Why isn't everyone picking up these cosmic transmissions?
Well, they actually address that. They recognize that a lot of people are are hesitant because of their conditioning. They say that most of their quote terrestrial friends have doubts because of preconceived beliefs, and skepticism.
So it's like we're blocking the signal with our own doubts and disbelief.
Yeah, something like that. And they also explain that everyone is guided through different mediums that are appropriate for their frequency level.
Okay, so it's not like a one-size-fits-all kind of guidance.
Exactly. They're tailoring the information to each person's level of understanding.
Right, which makes sense. I mean, you wouldn't try to, like, teach algebra to someone who hasn't even learned basic math, right?
Exactly. It's like a cosmic curriculum, and we're all learning at our own pace.
But what exactly is this evolvement medium they keep mentioning? It's a bit vague.
It's like the environment or the level of consciousness that's conducive to spiritual growth, Like imagine it like a greenhouse.
Okay.
You need the right conditions for plants to thrive, right?
Right.
Well, this fascicle is suggesting something similar for your spiritual development. It's saying that you need to be in the right evolvement medium to truly blossom.
I like that analogy. It makes sense. Like everyone wouldn't be ready for the same level of information or guidance, right?
Exactly. But how do they actually go about sharing this information through these mediums?
Yeah, like what's the delivery system? Are they like sending us cosmic text messages?
Not exactly, but they describe a pretty intricate system where information is filtered through various authorities and then dictated through the direct channel of LPHA.
Okay, so there's a cosmic chain of command for information dissemination.
Yeah, something like that.
It's like they have a whole spiritual bureaucracy up there.
But they really emphasize the importance of patience and perseverance on this path. They say, quote, "It is necessary to go up the stairs step by step."
So it's not about trying to like leap to enlightenment overnight.
Right. They're saying that rushing the process can actually hinder your progress.
Yeah, it's like trying to, I don't know, trying to run a marathon without any training.
Exactly. You gotta build up to it.
Pace yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And they use this really great analogy to illustrate this point.
Okay, I'm all about a good analogy. Lay it on me.
They compare individuals to to ripening fruit. They're saying that the process it takes time.
Okay, yeah, you can't rush a good melon,
Right. And they even say, quote, "If fruits could talk, each one of them would say, 'I'm very tasty. Now you can eat me.' While there is some acridity even in the sweet bait, how can anyone claim to be mature?"
I love that. It's so true. Like we all want to be that perfectly ripe fruit. But sometimes we're still a bit green.
Exactly. But how do we know when we've reached that point of maturity?
Yeah, like when are we finally ripe?
Well, they're pretty clear that claiming to be mature is not how it works. They say, quote, "Maturing occurs by the command 'let there be.'"
Okay, so it's not about ego or self-importance. It's about surrendering to a greater process.
Exactly. And this idea of surrendering to the process is really emphasized in the distinction they make between desiring and being, between searching and finding.
Okay, what do they mean by that? Because that seems pretty important.
They're saying that true attainment involves more than just wanting or seeking something.
Okay, so it's not just about like making a wish and hoping it comes true.
Right. It's about actively engaging in the process and allowing yourself to be transformed along the way.
So it's like the journey is just as important as the destination.
Exactly. It's about who we become along the way.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. But they throw in this fascinating concept of different times. They say that the time of the world and the time of the firmament are different.
It's like they're saying that time is multidimensional, that
Mhm.
there are different levels or frequencies of time, and they suggest that these different timelines are currently in a process of aligning or synchronizing.
So time isn't this like linear thing that we think it is. It's more more fluid, more complex.
That's what they seem to be suggesting, and they even link this to the influence of astrological cycles.
Astrology. Really? Okay, this is getting interesting.
They say that variations in the zodiac greatly influence, climate, seasons, and even our lives.
Wow. Okay.
And they even hint that our current calendar system is full of errors and will one day be modified.
So they're basically saying our whole understanding of time needs a major upgrade.
Yeah, something like that. But what's the point of all this talk about different times and astrological cycles? Like how does it relate to our spiritual evolution?
Yeah, good question. I mean, it's all very fascinating, but where does it fit into the bigger picture?
I think they're trying to point out that we're part of this much larger cosmic dance, that our lives are influenced by these grand cycles and rhythms, and they're encouraging us to become more aware of these influences and to align ourselves with them.
So it's about tuning in to the cosmic clock, understanding the bigger picture.
Exactly, and they
Yeah.
even they even reinforce this idea by saying that we should only record the month and year on the messages we receive because the specific day is irrelevant.
Okay, so these teachings are timeless. They transcend specific moments in history.
That's what they seem to be saying. But this whole idea of cosmic guidance and evolution, I mean, it can feel a bit overwhelming sometimes. Like, what if we're not ready for this evolvement medium? What if we're not like tuned into the right frequency?
No, what if we're like just not getting it?
Well, they seem to be aware of that because they end this section with a really reassuring message. They say, quote, "The negativities around you should never influence the happiness of your spirits, because to those who will get help, helping hands will always be extended."
Okay, so it's like, don't worry, we've got you. We'll meet you where you're at.
Exactly. They want us to know that we're supported and guided every step of the way.
That's good to know because, I mean, let's be honest, sometimes I think we could all use a little cosmic support.
I think so too.
But on a more serious note, they do seem to emphasize the importance of being proactive in our spiritual development. It's not enough to just like, sit back and wait for enlightenment to
Right. We gotta meet them halfway. Right. Put in some effort.
Exactly. So what are they saying about how we can be more proactive? What can we do to kind of step up our game?
Well, it's spent a lot of time talking about the nature of service and the importance of sharing what we know with others.
Okay, so it's not just about like personal growth. It's about helping others to evolve as well.
Exactly. They even address those who hesitate to share their insights, suggesting that this reluctance often stems from fear or ego. They say, quote, "Tell what you know clearly without any fear to your friends. This is what we want. Our purpose is to measure the thought frequencies of people in accordance with this."
So they're actually encouraging us to speak up, to share our truth. But why is that so important to them?
It seems like they're saying that sharing knowledge openly allows for a more accurate assessment of people's thought frequencies, which might be a way for them to, evaluate our spiritual development or readiness for further guidance.
Okay, so it's like, show us what you've learned and we'll guide you from there. But they don't sugarcoat it either. They even set a deadline. They say that we have 2 years to share this knowledge before they quote put the world order into an orbit.
Okay, so they're serious about this.
They're not messing around.
There's definitely a sense of urgency in their message.
Yeah, but it also speaks to the depth of their compassion.
Yeah.
Like they're not doing this for their own amusement. They're doing it because they genuinely care about our well-being.
Right, they want to help us. Yeah.
Exactly. But they also make it clear that their intention is always benevolent, even if their methods might seem a bit unconventional at times.
Right, it's not your typical self-help book.
No, for sure not.
Yeah.
But they're not trying to indoctrinate us into a specific belief system, are they?
No, they actually say, quote, "Your medium is not a medium of the Middle Ages. You are in an evolvement beyond religions. Do not ever forget this. Remember it always. Our friends."
Wow. So they're saying we're moving beyond religion. Like, what do they even mean by that?
I think they're suggesting that we're entering a new era of spiritual understanding,
Okay.
one that transcends the limitations of traditional dogma and embraces a more universal consciousness.
So it's about connecting to the essence of spirituality, the core principles that unite us all, rather than getting bogged down in specific doctrines or rituals.
Exactly. They're calling us to recognize our interconnectedness and to embrace a more expansive and inclusive worldview.
Right, right. But let's circle back to these solar friends for a moment, because they do give us some pretty specific descriptions of their activities within our solar system. They say, quote, "We are your solar friends who have come from other solar systems. We have bases in many galaxies in your solar system. For example, Mercury is a focal point where our central system exists. It is a dead planet. Most of our bases are on it, only due to its proximity to your sun."
So they like Mercury because it's a quick commute to the sun.
Maybe they're solar-powered beings.
Could be. But remember how they were talking about Pluto?
Oh yeah, the methane glaciers. Don't remind me, I'm getting hungry.
They say Pluto, covered by methane glaciers, is the lightest planet of your sun. It serves us as a storehouse for food.
Okay, so Pluto's their cosmic pantry. Got it.
And they even mention a special base on Pluto's moon, that serves as like a central hub for their operations. They say they travel from there to other bases using UFOs.
Wait, UFOs? Like they're zipping around our solar system in flying saucers?
It sounds like it. But again, we might need to consider these descriptions metaphorically.
Right, right. Maybe it's their way of explaining things in a way that we can, wrap our heads around, even if it's not entirely literal.
Yeah, that's a good point. But it's fascinating how they blend, spiritual and technological concepts so seamlessly. It's like they're saying that technology and spirituality aren't mutually exclusive. They can actually work together to facilitate our evolution.
I like that. It's like they're pushing us to expand our understanding of what's possible. Yeah.
Absolutely. But they keep coming back to the moon as this important communication hub. They say they've been sending messages from a base on the moon for centuries, specifically during each full moon.
So the moon is like a cosmic amplifier broadcasting wisdom to whoever's tuned in.
That's a great way to put it. And they also mention that people whose frequencies have been, quote, elevated beyond the moon receive information from the, quote, transmitters of the galaxy field through medium friends.
Okay, so there's a whole cosmic network of information being transmitted out there.
It seems like it.
And some people can access it directly.
Yeah, but they also talk about these special ships that travel between the moon and Earth, adjusting our brain codes for different frequency adjustments.
It's like they're actively involved in helping us to attune to higher frequencies, like they're giving us a little cosmic boost.
And they even mention having direct contact with some people through, radio, phone, and even television waves.
So they're really using all the tools at their disposal. I mean, even our own technology to try to reach us. Make you wonder if all those weird phone calls and static on the radio are actually messages from another dimension.
Maybe they are, but they ultimately, they emphasize the power of our own minds, saying that our brain vibrations are the most evolved instruments for communication.
So even with all their advanced technology, they're saying that our own minds are the most powerful tools we have.
Exactly. It's empowering, isn't it?
Totally.
Yeah.
But how do we actually develop these abilities? Like how do we learn to tune into those higher frequencies and receive these cosmic transmissions?
Yeah. Well, they talk about the importance of developing cosmic awareness and augmenting our sixth senses through these telepathic connections.
So it's about cultivating our intuition, our psychic abilities, but they also acknowledge that this process can be, it can be challenging. They say that a lot of people have doubts and hesitations because of their conditioning.
And they also explain that everyone is guided through different different mediums that are appropriate for their current, frequency level.
So it's like there's a cosmic curriculum, and we're all learning at our own pace.
Well, you're not all expected to become cosmic masters overnight.
Yeah, it's a process.
Right. It takes time.
But they also seem to be saying that we have a role to play in our own evolution. It's not all up to these solar friends to do the heavy lifting,
You're absolutely right. They make it very clear that we need to be actively engaged in our own spiritual growth. And they provide some really interesting insights into how this process unfolds.
But I'm all ears. What's their take on how we can evolve ourselves?
Well, they start by saying that that they're in touch with each of us individually, even if we're not aware of it. They say, quote, "We are together with them directly in the spiritual realm."
So we're never truly alone.
Right. Even if we don't feel it.
That's nice to
And
have.
they talk about elevating our cellular vibrations by habituating us to higher frequencies, much higher than the world frequency.
So it's like they're giving our cells a cosmic tune-up.
Yeah, something like that.
Wow.
But they also emphasize that this is a gradual process, They say, quote, "It is necessary to go up the stairs step by step. Keeping this in consideration, we supervise your frequencies and make the information distributions in this manner."
So they're monitoring our progress and adjusting the information accordingly.
Exactly. And they point out that this is why some people may seem to be ahead of others on the path. They say, quote, "For this reason, a friend who has gone up one step has to wait for a while for our friends who are on the lower step. In this manner, frequency differences will decrease and nobody will claim prophethood."
So it's about bringing everyone along, right?
Yeah, raising the collective frequency.
Rather than like creating a hierarchy of spiritual elites. Okay, that makes sense.
Right. It's not a competition.
No, we're all in this together.
Yeah. But they're also, they're pretty clear that the era of prophets is over. They say, quote, "The period of prophethood has ended. The goal is universal unification at the humanity code."
So we're moving beyond the need for intermediaries, for messengers. We're being empowered to connect directly with the divine.
That's what it seems like.
Yeah, that's a pretty radical concept.
Yeah, it definitely challenges our traditional ways of thinking about spirituality.
But it also feels very empowering, doesn't it? Like we're being given the tools to take responsibility for our own spiritual evolution.
I agree. It's definitely a shift in perspective.
But how do we actually do that? Like what are the practical steps we can take to kind of move in that direction?
Well, they revisit the analogy of ripening fruit, saying that, it takes time and it can't be forced.
Right. Patience is key.
But they emphasize that we need to be actively engaged in the process. They say, quote, "Maturing occurs by the command, 'Let there be,' not by sitting where you are. The one who receives the command starts to proceed on the path."
So it's about aligning with that higher power, that higher principle, that divine impulse, and taking action based on that alignment.
Exactly. And they reiterate the distinction between, desiring and being, between searching and finding.
Right. It's one thing to want something. It's another thing to actually be it, to live it.
Exactly. And they're saying that those who actively seek will ultimately find, and they'll connect with others on the same path.
Okay, so we're not alone in this journey.
Right. There's a whole community of seekers out there.
Okay, that's encouraging.
And they also touch on this concept of different times, again, saying that the time of the world operates at a different frequency than the time of the firmament.
So like time is not as simple as we think it is.
Right. It's more nuanced.
But different levels to it.
Exactly. They seem to be suggesting that we need to shift our perception of time, to move beyond our linear understanding and embrace a more multidimensional perspective.
So it's about getting in sync with the cosmic clock, understanding the bigger picture.
Exactly. And they even suggest that our current calendar system is flawed and will eventually be be revised to reflect a more accurate understanding of these cosmic cycles.
Okay, so our whole concept of time needs a major upgrade.
Yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing.
But amidst all this talk of cosmic connections and future interventions, they end this section with a really reassuring message. They say, quote, "The negativities around you should never influence the happiness of your spirits, because to those who will get help, helping hands will always be extended."
It's like, don't worry, we're here for you.
Yeah, we've got your back.
Even when things feel chaotic or overwhelming, we're never truly alone.
There's always support available if we're open to receiving it.
Exactly.
Okay, that's good to know. But let's talk about this idea of genuine submission and how it plays into all of this, because they have this passage that really caught my attention. They say, quote, "Every human being is rewarded due to his submission and goodwill. You've achieved this until today under the light of your religious purification. Now, we will convey to you its real meaning. This is not a secret. The characteristic of the central system here is to keep your frequency adjustments under supervision."
It's interesting that they frame our spiritual progress as being linked to our submission and goodwill, and they even suggest that we've been achieving this through our religious purification.
So they're acknowledging the role that religion has played in our development, but they're also hinting at a deeper meaning to these concepts.
Exactly. They're saying that the real meaning of genuine submission is not a secret,
Yeah.
and they link this concept to the word Allah, suggesting that this word acts as a protective code. They even say, quote, "In every place where the name of Allah is mentioned, there is a medium of protection."
Okay, so it's like this word holds a special power that can activate like a protective energy field or something.
Yeah, something like that.
And they seem to be suggesting that this applies to other religions as well.
Yeah, they say, quote, "Because each word has a cipher, a meaning. This is valid for every religion in each country."
Okay, so it's about the power of sacred words and sounds
Yeah.
across different traditions.
Right. And they really emphasize, the importance of sincerity, the intention behind it all. They say, quote, "Helping hands are instantly extended to those who are genuinely submissive. Your faith and submission issuing from your very essence is very important here, because the submission of a person in a dilemma and the genuine submission and faith turn on different colors of light on the mechanism here."
So it's not about just like blindly reciting words or going through the motions. It's about the intention behind our actions,
Yeah.
the sincerity of our heart.
Exactly. And it's like, that sincerity is actually what activates these different energetic frequencies, and that's what attracts a higher level of support.
Right, right. So it's almost like our sincerity acts as a kind of like cosmic tuning fork, aligning us with the right frequencies to receive guidance and assistance.
That's a great way to put it. And they bring this idea back around when they talk about miracles. You know how they say that miracles are sometimes granted to those who lack faith but possess goodwill.
Right.
It's like a way to awaken their belief.
Oh, okay. So it's like they're using miracles as a kind of like cosmic wake-up call,
Yeah.
to get people's attention and open them up to the possibility of something beyond their current understanding.
Exactly. But they also suggest that those who already have, genuine faith, they don't need miracles because their faith itself acts as a conduit for spiritual power.
So it's like faith is the kind of self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, it's like if you believe it, it becomes true for you.
And they kind of reiterate this idea of belief as a shaping force. They say, in whichever way you believe in something, in whichever way you look at it, in whichever way you think of it, that thing will serve you in the very same way.
Right, our beliefs create our reality. It's a fundamental principle of the universe.
Yeah, and they explain how this works, on an energetic level.
Yeah.
They say that our desires, when imbued with good intentions, are able to pass through the magnetic level surrounding the planet,
Mm-hmm.
and then our supervised according to our spiritual level.
So it's not enough to just want something, right? You have to have the right intentions behind it.
Right. It's not just about like selfish desires. It's about aligning your desires with a higher purpose.
Right. And then they bring up, these negative emotions again and how they can impede this process. They say that negativity creates a kind of energetic blockage that prevents us from accessing those higher frequencies.
Right. Right. And they have this really interesting explanation for why those negative emotions often seem to create like more suffering for the person who's harboring them, you know. They say that
Yeah.
these negative energies, they can't penetrate the magnetic screen surrounding our planet, and so they end up being reflected back to the person who sent them out.
It's like the negativity we put out into the world just boomerangs right back to us.
It's like what goes around comes around, but on
Yeah.
on an energetic level.
Exactly. And they offer this really profound insight into the nature of suffering, they say. Quote, as a result of Hisharon negative feelings, a person falls into the ditch Hisha has digged.
So they're saying that we often play a role in creating our own suffering.
Right. Which is, it can be a tough pill to swallow, but it's also, I think, empowering in a way. Because if we're creating our own suffering, then we also have the power to change it.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's about taking responsibility.
Yeah, exactly.
And they even offer reassurance that suffering isn't some kind of like divine punishment.
Hmm.
They say that the magnetic screen acts as a protective barrier, preventing negativity from reaching, higher realms.
So it's not like we're being punished by God, or some cosmic force. Our suffering is a consequence of our own choices and
Like
actions.
it's about cause and effect, but they conclude this section with a really powerful reminder. They say, our friends in the divine realm are lights who endeavor only for the happiness of human beings. People create both their happiness and unhappiness themselves.
So it's a call to really take ownership of our lives and to recognize our power to create the reality we want to experience.
Right. If we want more happiness, we have
Yeah.
to choose it. We have to create it.
And they go on to say, quote, the evolvement and the training of a person occur as a result of Hisher's struggle with Hisher own self. Nobody else can ever train her.
So we can't rely on, like gurus or external authorities to do the work for us. We have to do it ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. True transformation comes from within.
Okay, yeah.
And they even link this process to the attainment of angelic qualities.
Angelic qualities, like
What?
we can become angels.
Well, they say, quote, when love reaches the genuine code of love, which is at the citadel of the angels, you too become an angel.
That's a beautiful, beautiful thought. Like we all have the potential for that kind of consciousness within us.
Yeah, but they also make it clear that this transformation doesn't happen overnight. They say, quote, to be able to attain this boon is peculiar only to those who deserve it.
Right. So there's a sense of like, destiny. Like we come into this life with a certain blueprint.
Yeah, but they also emphasize the role of choice, saying that we ultimately choose our direction.
So it's a balance between what's predetermined and what we create through our choices.
Right, and they reiterate this idea of balance in the following passage. They say, everything in the universe is an element of equilibrium. The absence of one thing is always compensated with something else. In fact, your essence consciousness code is always kept beyond hypocritical intentions, but mankind has always deviated and has gone astray.
So it's like even when we mess up, our core being, our true self remains intact. Like there's a part of us that's always connected to that higher power, even if we forget it sometimes.
And they also offer this really powerful concept of self-sacrifice as a path to spiritual growth. They say self-sacrifice designs the most sacred path for humanity.
Okay, I'm not sure I fully understand what they mean by that. Like, what does it mean to sacrifice yourself in this context?
I think they're talking about, transcending our ego-driven desires. Like putting the needs of others before our own, acting in service to a higher
So
purpose.
it's not about denying ourselves or punishing ourselves. It's about expanding our sense of self to encompass something greater.
Exactly. It's about recognizing our interconnectedness, and acting from a place of love and compassion.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot more sense. And they conclude this passage with a really beautiful and inspiring message. They say, "Let us love and be loved. Let us discover our essence. Let us enter the heavens and learn what everything is. Steps taken in this manner will always lead our human brothers and sisters to luminous and flowery paths."
So it's a call to embrace love, self-discovery, and a deeper understanding of the universe.
Right. It's about the journey, and
Yeah.
they're assuring us that if we take steps in that direction, we'll find ourselves on a path of light and beauty.
Right. And then they end this fascicle with a really interesting message about self-training. They say, our friends, entities on the level of the firmament have collaborated for you with all their goodwill. These dictated messages are a command of the divine, and this is a universal mobilization.
So they're saying that this whole knowledge book is a divinely orchestrated effort
That's what it sounds like.
to help us evolve. And they also talk about these messages being filtered by many authorities and are conveyed to you by being dictated through the direct channel of ALPHA.
It's like they have a whole cosmic team working behind the scenes to ensure that the information is being transmitted, accurately and appropriately.
Yeah, yeah. It makes you wonder who or what this ALPHA is, though.
Right. That's a big mystery.
Yeah.
But they do acknowledge that we can't fully comprehend the workings of this system yet. They say, you have no idea yet about the miraculous medium here. You know that evolvement depends on the yield of the years. Nobody can be aware of the supremacy flowing through the centuries. Everyone is satisfied with the data in harmony with Hisher medium.
So we're not privy to the whole picture yet,
Yeah.
but they're giving us glimpses into something much grander than we can currently imagine.
Right. And they even hint at the possibility of future connections with other solar systems.
Or solar systems.
Yeah, saying that connections have been provided and that they'll intervene when the time comes.
So it's like there's a whole universe of possibilities out there, just waiting for us to evolve to the point where we can understand and interact with that.
It's pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah, but even with all this talk of cosmic connections and future interventions, they bring it back to the present moment. They say, during the period of sincerity, your places of prostration are your hearts.
So it's a reminder that true spirituality isn't about external rituals or dogmas. It's about the sincerity of our hearts and our willingness to open to a higher power.
Right, right. And they end this fascicle with a truly beautiful and hopeful message. They say, we desire to assemble here all our terrestrial brothers and sisters. The lights of our Lord are upon you with our love. It's like they're extending an invitation to join them in this realm of spiritual security and enlightenment. A realm where we can learn and grow together.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful vision of our collective future.
Well, Fascicle 4, the Knowledge Book, definitely takes us on a wild ride through some truly mind-bending concepts.
Yeah, it's a lot to process.
I mean, it challenges our understanding of everything. From the origins of the universe to the nature of our own consciousness.
Right. It's not your average spiritual text.
But whether you take it literally or metaphorically, it's packed with thought-provoking ideas.
Yeah.
That can spark some really interesting conversations.
Yeah, for sure. And I think even if you don't agree with everything it says, it definitely pushes you to think outside the box and to consider new possibilities.
Yeah, it's been a real deep dive. I'm curious to know what What stood out to you the most from this fascicle?
Hmm. That's a good question. I think for me, it's this whole idea of the evolvement medium,
Hmm.
and how we can create the right conditions for our own spiritual growth. It makes me really think about the choices I'm making, and whether they're supporting my evolution or hindering it.
That's a great, great point. And it ties
Yeah.
into this whole idea of taking responsibility for our own happiness and well-being. We're not just, passive recipients of cosmic forces. We actually have the power to shape our own reality, through our thoughts, our actions and our beliefs.
Right. And I think this fascicle offers a lot of really, really practical advice on how to do that. It's not just about abstract concepts. It's about putting those concepts into practice in our daily lives.
Yeah, it's a call to action,
Yeah.
and an invitation to step into our full potential as spiritual
I
beings.
love that.
And I think that's a really, really empowering message to leave our listeners with.
I agree. And it's a reminder that we're not alone on this journey. We have guidance, we have support, and we have the power within ourselves to create the life we want to live.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining me on this deep dive into Fascicle 4, the knowledge book. We'll be back soon with another fascinating exploration of spiritual teachings and wisdom traditions from around the world. Until then, keep seeking, keep exploring, and keep those good vibes flowing.